Look at that mess. I have inserted a young male Titan. God, pause, absolutely no diddy. To start, we are going to chat about this monstrosity behind me. I truly thought I was going to hold on to that stuff forever, and I'm not. Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, September 17th. Where has this year gone, by the way? And it's a toy room update video. It has been several months since I have updated you guys on the progress of the new toy room, so I am very excited here today to get into all of the chaos that has ensued since then. To start, we are going to chat about this monstrosity behind me, the Sectaurs Hyve playset from Coleco. I am going to talk you through the assembly process, as well as share with you all the challenges that I faced cannibalizing a couple of these things to make my one final complete Hive playset. We are also going to chat about a full room layout from a toy line and theme perspective. You'll get a first look at the back nook area, which I'm very excited to share with you guys as well. And finally, lastly, we are going to talk about some of the safeguards that I have put in place to not only protect the collection, but to elevate the display of the collection as well. With that, folks, let's cut the chit chat and get into this toy room update. The cannibalizing continues. Here today, we are putting together a complete Hive playset from the Sectaurs line by Coleco. And as you can see, I have two currently in my possession. Both have been taken apart and disassembled. The disassembly process really wasn't all too bad. You have to take into account that when these playsets were designed 30 or 40 years ago, they weren't necessarily made to be taken apart, but it can be done, and I've done it on two different occasions here. We'll get into all of the details and challenges of that later in this video. But if we focus in here on the operating table, this is the chassis we will be keeping in the collection. It's been cleaned both front and back. I have installed the support beams for the cardboard insert. To install the support beams, it just requires Phillips head screwdrivers, which are installed on the front of the playset and then held together by these plastic black caps that go over the screws. And then the cardboard cutout goes on top of this. If we take a walk through the mess, this is the cardboard cutout we will be going with. And again, we will do comparisons to the other insert once we have the playset standing upright. But the next step is to install NAR, the hand puppet, which we will be putting a sleeve over that plastic cap there, held together by a zip tie. That is going to be the installation for NAR. And after that, we'll take this cardboard cutout, bring it over to the playset right here, and lay it right on top and screw it all in, which really, not screwing anything in, we'll just be putting a couple of nuts on each one of the screws here to hold it all in. Nice and snug and secure. And then we'll be able to install all of the ancillary peripheral pieces to the playset. So once the cardboard piece is on, we will be more than 50% done with the installation of this playset. Updates to follow. Okay, so we have the hand puppet known as NAR installed over the flange here. I used two 10-inch zip ties as per the instructions. And now we are going to take this cardboard insert and install it onto the back of the Hive. All right, and we are looking at the back of the Hive playset, fully assembled. The last piece of this installation was to install the leg stands, which screw right into the base. Once you put the cardboard insert and lay that on top of the support beams that we just looked at a moment ago, you place the legs over the screw holes and you simply screw both legs into both sides. I'm going to flip the camera around. I'll show you the front of the Hive fully assembled. Obviously there are parts like the ladder, the assault ladder there, and the finger puppet, which I'm not displaying or setting up right now on the playset, but we will check out the front of the playset with all of the peripherals installed, and I will share with you guys my thoughts on assembly and disassembly of this playset. And here she is, folks. A minty, shiny, complete Hive playset. Easily one of the absolute, in my opinion, best playsets of the past 40 years. The presence, the intricate sculpt, the play features. You cannot beat this playset if you ask me. And it is also, in my opinion, vastly overlooked and wildly underrated. Putting this thing together out of the box was pretty simple. I think the biggest challenge for me was installing the flange that Gnar, right over here, this hand puppet, lives in. It comes in two plastic pieces, two halves, and trying to get each piece slotted into the cardboard insert, for me at least, was kind of challenging. Otherwise, everything else was pretty easy. Now, I didn't just simply take this stuff out of the box and install it. I cannibalized another playset to create a complete one, the one that you see here, which means I had to take pieces off of both playsets in this case, the pieces that I needed to remove and then the pieces that I needed to replace. And there were definitely some challenges with that. And really the challenges were with these hinges here. You can see on the barricade door and the latch. Those hinges are push pins. They're pressure activated. So once they're in, they're not really meant to be taken out. And so you can't just yank them out. You can't just push them out from the back of the playset. But what I found worked pretty easily, and keep in mind these pins, depending on the playware on them, some of the plastic on some of the hinges might be more malleable than others. But either way, whether there is some give to them or not, simply slowly twisting and pulling the hinges from the front of the playset, twisting and pulling slowly, that seemed to work pretty easily for me. And I was able to replace a pretty jacked up, broken barricade hinge and a very loose latch. Outside of that, and like I mentioned, the flange installation for Gnar, this was very simple. It looked more daunting of a task than I think it was due to the sheer size of this thing. And then of course, you know, I see support beams and screws and nuts and I'm like, oh God. But pretty simple and absolutely amazing. Now, I don't think I'm going to keep this here. Originally, I thought it would be great. Centerpiece over top, you got the spotlight here, which that has its own switch. And the shadows it creates is pretty amazing with the lights off. I have a picture up on my Instagram of that. When I first put this thing up, even before I fully assembled it, it was the first thing I did in here. But as you can see, this is not the final display. I want this is one of my favorite lines. So I want this thing to have all the room that it needs. I also am still seeking out a high grade, really just minty, sealed Hive box. I would like some sealed flyers as well, and even some boxed items from this line because I love it so much. So, and really to display this thing properly, it's so big. And if I'm going to get the box along with it, there's clearly no room here for both of even just those two pieces, but never mind these guys. General Spydrax here. So what I'm going to do is, and I thought about this a lot because I thought about what I was going to do with this space a lot. But what I plan to do is just dedicate this wall to the Hive and the Sectaurs line, which I think will be amazing. It'll satisfy my OCD where I don't have two different lines. Initially, you know, I thought about maybe keeping Karate Kid stuff there, putting the Hive there, Rambo here, Hive there. I want this to just be one wall of one thing. I can put some smaller, once I get them, Sectaurs pieces up in the window, seat right there. And I think that will look pretty amazing all spread out and with room to breathe. So that is the plan for the Hive and the Sectaurs line. And that really, that theme of just being focused down and keeping certain spaces well defined is something you're going to see throughout this room and throughout this video, which leads us to the next part of this toy room update, which is an explanation of what I'm doing with this wall right here. Okay, taking a bit of a different view here of the right side wall in the main room as you walk in. And as you can see, just like the rest of this room, this particular space is under heavy construction. It's gone through several different concept ideas and displays. And if you're interested in seeing any of the displays that I have set up, torn down, and have changed since the first toy room update video to this toy room update video to subsequent future toy room update videos, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I post several times a week, sometimes even daily, and my Instagram information is in the description of this video below. Now, let's get down to business. What the heck am I doing with this wall? It's a fantastic question. For a long time, I did not know. I have struggled mightily with the thought of themes. How broad or narrow do I want my thematic scope of my collection and this room to be? Initially, off to the right here, as you can see, the DC 1991 licensed Batman neon sign that was gifted to me by John and Toy Wiz. Big shout out to my buddy John. Several years ago, he gave me that. Initially, I was going to put my Toy Biz Batman stuff under that. And then across from that, or next to it, rather, I have my Toy Biz, sealed Toy Biz Marvel items, which I really like the way that display looks. And next to that, the open cube, I'll see if I can insert an Instagram picture of what was there. I had my loose Toy Biz training center that you can see right here in the foreground in frame, along with my loose Sentinel and sealed Sentinel box. And I thought, I'll just have a little Toy Biz corner here. I think that'll look awesome. Toy Biz Marvel and Toy Biz Batman were huge parts of my childhood and early adolescent collecting. Toy lines that I will always love. And I thought that will be a perfect representation for me. And then we'll move on to other things. And that's what I did. I had in the middle my Technodrome with the box. Next to that I had my firehouse, and next to that I eventually moved my, what you see now is the Kraken all the way at the end. And I liked that. At first I liked that. I walked into the room, I felt enveloped by colors and toy lines that were extremely sentimental to me. I really liked it. And then my OCD started to kick in. I looked at my Kraken and I said to myself, why is the Kraken next to this firehouse? If it's not attacking it, it should not be next to it. Then I looked across the room. Behind me, a wall that we will get into shortly, which is all fantasy, essentially my D&D collection and crossbows and catapults. It's a fantasy wall. And I love that wall. That wall, somewhat of a spoiler alert, is going to be the catalyst for really what we're doing with the rest of this room and my collection. But I looked at that and it just made total sense to me. Loved the way it looked, everything fit, everything's the same, different lines, but same theme. Love that. So then I thought to myself, okay, well, I have fantasy stuff on this wall. I plan to have fantasy stuff in the back nook area. I have some Marvel and superhero stuff here, Marvel and Batman in this corner. And I have more superhero stuff. Maybe I'll just make this wall a superhero wall. My Hamilton Gifts Hulk that I need to set up. I broke out my Applause, this ultra rare, actually, store display of the Applause Marvel Superheroes line, which I love. It looks so nice and neat and clean. Big line for me as a kid. Had those figures in my collection on top of birthday cakes, all of that. So I thought I'll sprinkle in some of my Hulk stuff with that to make a display I thought would look nice. I have a Fantastic Car, I have a loose Punisher van. I could easily fill this wall up with superhero stuff and it would make sense to me. One wall is superhero stuff, the other wall is fantasy, and we move on. In designing this room, this particular scenario is exactly what I expected myself to be in, which is setting this space up so I could, in my crazy mind, properly exhaust any and all options, including myself, which I am definitely doing, in figuring out, and so I could figure out what the best layout for my collection will be. How far do I want to slide the variety bar for themes in my collection? So I started to really warm up to the idea of a superhero wall, which is why you see that PVC display in that middle cube. I started to unbox more of my stuff, realized how much boxed fantasy items I had, which is awesome. Some of which you'll see later in this video. Started to unbox more of my D&D collection that I set up, which you'll see shortly, that I'm very happy and pleased with. And then I realized certain pieces need to be displayed in a certain way for me to fully enjoy them. Like that Kraken needs to be out in the open. When I initially designed this room, any of you guys that have been following the channel for a while, you've been watching the videos, I've been walking around this room with blocks on the floor, framing not even up, and I was talking about my Kraken being on that middle cube that the store PVC display is on right now. I just saw it there for whatever reason. That's where it is going to go back to. But trying to put that Kraken in a rectangular display, shelving display, didn't like it at all. Even if I eventually found a box and fill out the line, that belongs to be out in the open. Same with a lot of my Motu stuff, the play sets. I don't like the idea of it on a shelf that has a roof and walls and stuff. Certain things need to be out in the open for me to enjoy them properly, and to keep this, most of this room, but especially this part of it, all one theme with different toy lines within that theme, to me, for me, would be the best thing that I could do right now. And whether it's in this part of the room or the back part of the room, which we will eventually get into, the one thing that I have fully realized this year, starting in January really, toy lines that will always be super nostalgic to me, that I will always love for one reason or another. At this point in my life, I don't necessarily need to collect them. I wasn't anticipating certain lines that I'm going to move away from, that I'd ever really move away from. But now setting up this room and really making tough decisions and fleshing out what I want this room to look and feel like. Long story short, the wall you're looking at now isn't going to be a superhero wall. It's going to be more fantasy stuff. I plan to put my Kraken, like I mentioned, in that middle cube display. I think the Batman light up here, I think I might take down and put my Mortal Kombat light up on that wall, along with the Dragon Wing under it, and properly display my MK line. Right here, I think that will look really cool. My Durham Industries Fantasy Fortress, which shout out to my buddy Sasho. He's currently keeping that safe for me. Thank you, buddy. I somehow found one this year and then found an upgrade. Just absolutely crazy. Shout out to the Vintage Toy Psychos. So I have a boxed, unused contents, complete Fantasy Fortress. I'm going to have one for sale once I have it in my possession, but it's already paid for in mine. I just need to physically get it from my buddy. But I think that will look really good on one of these cubes, along with a couple of different Motu playsets. I wound up getting this Hordak costume set, mint from Undiscovered Realmcom, back in June with my buddy Joe, my cousin Joe. We picked that up at a local show here. So I think that would be cool to kind of put with the Fright Zone. Maybe that'll go in the corner spot, I don't know. But I'm going to deck out these cubes with fantasy items that I believe look best out in the open. With that said, why don't we flip the camera around and I will show you guys a wall that I am certain of, which feels good because it's the only wall, well, actually no, it's one of two walls that I am certain of. All right, a wall that I actually know what I'm doing with and that I'm very happy with currently. My D&D wall. Since the last toy room update, not all too much has changed, I guess. We did totally swap out one display that I am super happy with now. And we've also added a display at the end there, which we will get into, of course. But left to right, we'll start with this cube, open cube. I would not mind finding and picking up the Placo Toys D&D costume helmet that I've passed up on a few different times, which at this point I regret. But I would put that on this cube with some figures. I might even just put a riser with some of my bad guys and shield shooters with maybe some carded D&D behind it. But really, ideally, what I'd love is to get a snake cave so it would fit right next to this Fortress of Fangs. Randy and NECA, I really hope you guys make a snake cave for us. I plan to visit Yester Toys, which is Randy's toy shop, sometime in the near future. So I will definitely lobby for that hardcore. But ideally, I would love to have a snake cave and put it right here. That is the dream. So right now it's open. And then above that, of course, I'm going to put some fantasy art that I still need to get up on the wall. As far as one of the main D&D displays here, you guys saw this during the first toy room update, the Fortress of Fangs. Step through the trials and tribulations of cannibalizing this thing to make one complete minty one. Really happy with that display. I do plan to put Kellic in between the eyes once I unbox him from storage, wherever the heck he is. And then, of course, up above, we've got the sealed Tiamat and Fortress of Fangs box. You may notice there are some cases around both of these items. We will get into what that's about shortly. Moving on down, this is the most recently revamped display on the D&D wall. I had something totally different here, which I was okay with, but there was just something that felt off to me. And through lots of playing around with all sorts of other things, I wound up bringing the Hook Horror and Dragon box here back here to the front of the room, which makes sense to keep with the line, and everything else along with it. A whole lot of good guys. I think I might put Young Male Titan behind the Bronze Dragon there, all posed up. But as you can see, we've got Bowmark, Shield Shooter Northlord there, Elkhorn, Strongheart, and above we've got the casters and the ranged party members, Paralay, Mercion, Ringelrun. Really, really, really like the way this looks. These two together, very happy. My goal is to make sure that these displays have proper spacing, at least what I feel is proper spacing, that I can enjoy everything that I'm looking at, is aesthetically pleasing to me. They look good in pictures, all of that. Maximizing space without cluttering it up. And I feel like both of the displays I have that you just saw, including this one, accomplishes that. This is my crossbows and catapults line. This is such a colorful line. I really love this display. I could not wait to get those battling giants out and display them all. Really happy with how this looks. And from a distance, when you step back, you look at this across the room, this display pops. As you can see, all sorts of crazy crap below me. But what we will do now is teleport to the window area that we are looking at now, and we will go over some of these safeguards that I've put in place since we've last met. An update within the update. Before we move on here, I did want to go over and highlight some recent changes made to this particular display. If we focus in on the back of this cube here, both the Hook Horror and Dragon boxes are vaulted in Katana Collectibles cases. These cases not only safeguard against the surfaces your boxed items are placed on, the air, the sun, they're full UV protectant by the way, but I believe they also give an element of class to your boxed items and box art as well. More on Katana Collectibles shortly. If we move down here, looking at the Bronze Dragon, right behind it, I have inserted a Young Male Titan. God, pause, absolutely no diddy. And I think he looks great. Lastly, if we stick with our Young Male Titan, you'll see I have him on a stand here. I also have Bowmark on that same stand. Now, both of these figures stand perfectly on their own, but there was something about them that made me a bit nervous. And I have a couple of other figures in my collection that gave me that same feeling. So that got me hunting around on the internet for action figure stands. Shout out to my buddy, Toy Room of Insanity. Check him out. I will have his channel in the description of this video below. He sent me a link to these Kaiser doll stands. They're great. I told him, I'm just nervous about action figure stands scratching my figures or pinching them too much, especially if they're a more malleable plastic over time. And he said, dude, use these, they're awesome. I tried them out. These are the 3 to 5 inch action figure stands. I also bought 5 to 7 inch, which are way too big for any of this stuff for sure. But on some of my beefier, bigger figures and even larger scale figures, I may use those. And they're great. They work exactly as intended. They do not scratch at the waist or pinch too much at the waist either. And I will be using these stands for a lot of my bootlegs that just can't stand on their own, no matter what their condition is. So big shout out to Toy Room of Insanity. And as you can see, not only do I have peace of mind now with these two particular figures, but I have them firmly in poses I probably couldn't put them in if I did not use these stands. Okay, moving on to the window seat here. So shortly after the first Toy Room update video, I was down here in the room cleaning. I started to remove the boxes that I had and still have in the window seats here, specifically my Fortress of Fangs and Tiamat boxes, and I noticed two things. The first thing is both boxes were hot. They were warm, the backs of them. And this was, mind you, in the middle of the heat wave that we had here in New York, but nonetheless, for whatever the reason, the boxes were hot, and that made me nervous. The second thing that I noticed is as I was lifting the boxes off of the windowsill, I heard a bit of a crackling noise. That made me very nervous. The boxes are fine, there is no damage. But the thought of these boxes getting sticky over time definitely did not sit well with me. And the idea of these boxes potentially getting hot, even though these are custom box inserts, totally blacked out. My contractor did a wonderful job. There is no light seeping through any of the three windows here. But it is at the ground level, and when it does get very hot, anything I think that you would put in these particular spots might get a little warm. And over time, that would definitely make me nervous in regards to the back of the boxes and potential sun damage. So while I might be a little too crazy about these things, I wanted to give myself the peace of mind by putting safeguards in place to ensure that all of this stuff will be safe till the end of time. So the first thing I did was hunt around the internet to find something that I could put on the base of the windowsill that would better protect any items or boxes that I place on them so they don't get sticky. I wound up finding this website called fabglassandmirror.com. I will put a link in the description of this video below. And essentially they make all different types of custom tabletops, different materials that you can choose from. You can enter your own custom dimensions, which is exactly what I did. My items showed up within 5 business days, packed appropriately, and that was it. Unpacked them, slid them right into the window seat, fit like a glove, and I no longer had to worry about my boxes potentially sticking to the base of the windowsill. Not only that, but I also really like the finish that it gives the windowsill. It gives a little bit of a sheen, showroom kind of shine, gentle, delicate shine to the base of the windowsill. And I think it elevates the display even to give it more of a showroom kind of look to it. So I'm very happy with that. The second thing that I did was seek out custom collectibles cases. And honestly, there really just aren't that many, at least that I have found over the years on the market. There was one go-to guy that I had who no longer is making custom cases which kind of stinks, but through my buddy Man Cave Collectibles and Reviews, make sure to go follow him if you aren't already. He turned me on to Katana Collectibles. And so I started working with Katana, and together we have produced a number of custom cases that have not been created before on the Katana website. I've also worked with Katana on creating a new case design for the bigger cases, like my Fortress of Fangs. That actually came in 2 pieces, which essentially interlock with each other once you fold them over each half of the box. These cases not only, as mentioned earlier, safeguard your collection in all the ways mentioned previously in this video, but for these 2 specific examples right in front of you, the gift sets, Good Destrier and Strongheart, Bronze Dragon and Strongheart. Both of these card flaps were limp. They were folded completely over, so you could not see what you are seeing right now. Once I got them in these cases, the way these particular cases are constructed, they hold these card flaps up. And now, these 2 pieces look absolutely beautiful. They are protected for life. I don't have to worry about the sun, and they fit like a glove. So working with Yen and Katana Collectibles on any and all of the boxes that I have here, it's been a very easy process. I highly recommend Katana Collectibles and all their cases. I know Man Cave has gone back and bought a few himself. When he recommended these guys to me at the time, I don't believe he did anything custom. He just picked whatever he saw off their website that was available that he needed. So I was kind of the guinea pig to go and actually work with Katana Collectibles to make some of these, get some of these other custom cases made, and it's been a wonderful experience. So now I have 2 beautiful pieces of AD&D LJN Toys gift sets in my collection that will stay protected and that I can enjoy for exactly what they're worth. I'm hoping I can track down a Warduke and Nightmare at some point, and all 3 of these will fit. I measured, fit perfectly in this window seat. So, and you'll see a couple of other examples of boxed items with previously limp card backs that are and have been saved by Katana Collectibles. These 2 examples, they fit like a glove so perfectly that I didn't even need to use the particular piece of the case that would actually hold the flaps up. If you notice on the Hokar and Dragon boxes, there's a little flap that is in front of the top of the card back. That typically is what will keep the card backs standing upright. These fit so well, almost a little too well, I didn't even need to use the flap that comes over top, that interlocks into the box. So, which almost is even nicer, because now there's absolutely nothing disrupting the card backs whatsoever. So with that, be sure to give Katana Collectibles a shot if you are looking for a custom way to protect and elevate your display. And out of the frying pan and into the fire, we approach another mess of a situation. However, even though it looks like a mess, which it is, I do have a plan for this space. And I've already started to execute on that plan, as you can see straight ahead here. One thing that you do not see on these shelves is my turtle collection, which I started heavily populating this part of the room with only to be very dissatisfied with what I had. After a lot of thinking and messing around with these shelves back here, I thought about this wall, or these three, really. The two angled panels and the one in the middle. The one in the middle, as mentioned in previous toy room update videos, we are going to continue our plan with racking and mounting the card cases, which I will be putting my Magic cards in. Originally, I was going to do a mix of Magic and Marvel, but I did get rid of my, again, something I never thought I'd do. This was almost a full year ago now, but I did move my graded Marvel card collection. I had a lot of, almost all of Impel Series 1, Marvel Universe, my favorite superhero trading card set from the early 90s. I had all PSA graded 10 stuff. Shout out to Amanda, the graded gamer. I mean, I bought that stuff pennies on the dollar years and years and years ago. And I never thought I would get rid of that stuff, because if I did, I would have dumped it during the pandemic where, you know, I paid no more than $10 to $30 for whatever I had, and some of that stuff was going for thousands. I did not care because I'm not in it for money. I truly thought I was going to hold on to that stuff forever, and I'm not. Made the decision, difficult decision, to move away from that because I didn't want a mix of different types of cards on one wall, despite both being very nostalgic to me, both being beautiful pieces of artwork, still to this day, that are some of my favorite. I had Tom Morgan original art drawn after the Mephisto and Hulk cards that he did for Series 1. I had that. Two of those pieces, which found the best home for that, for sure. I had Joe Jusko, Marvel Masterpiece, 92. A bunch of those graded Marvel Blasters. I had a lot of really nice stuff, but I really just wanted to focus on my Magic cards, because on this wall and on the other angled panel, I plan to put two pieces of signed art from two of my favorite fantasy artists, Clyde Caldwell and Larry Elmore. So really the room leads in with that. Fantasy. Now, for a while I thought, okay, Turtles and Dragons, two of my favorite things. So I started populating the room with turtle stuff. Wasn't feeling it. I'm not going to get into all the reasons as to why. I just wasn't. As I started to unbox and unearth more of my collection, some of the stuff you see here, this was the spot. I just saw it in my mind and started setting it up. And to me, this is perfect. The first two rows, at least, that is. We've got the two of my favorite board games from back in the day, Dungeon and Hero Quest, with some of my favorite. I thought it was a good opportunity to put some of my favorite LJN D&D PVCs in front of them to really, for me, that gives it that old school 80s nerdy kid toy room, bedroom sort of feel that I had as a kid. And I used to do things like this as a kid, setting up my figures in front of something. So even just the display itself is very nostalgic to me. And I really like the way that came out. I've got some bootleg stuff there as well. All the Imperial, boxed Imperial stuff, which is such beautiful art on that. And that's also, as you can see, before we even move on, I should note the Battle Beast Chariot and Saber-Toothed Serpent. Those two pieces are now vaulted in Katana Collectibles cases as well. Those two, just like the D&D gift sets, the card flaps were totally limp, and Katana saved them. And now I can enjoy both of those boxes for all that they're worth. And I think that they look absolutely amazing with the Attack Stallion in the middle. They fit perfectly on that shelf. At some point, I do need a loose Attack Stallion to put in front of that box, which will also perfectly fit. I'm just very happy with how that wall is shaping up. The rest of it, TBD. But those first two shelves I'm very happy with. Over here, this is just temporary storage for now, but I plan to put the rest of my fantasy stuff in here that I believe would look good or better in shelves than out in the open. Look at that mess out here. My Black Star stuff, my Chris Star stuff, all with the boxes, Dragon Riders of the Sticks. Willow, I think I might try to put some of that, like my carded stuff, on this wall. We'll see. But my Robin Hood stuff, need a Sherwood Forest in the box, but I have the playset. I do have the box here. I just want a nicer box. So I have plenty of stuff to put and populate these shelves with. And this is going to be one big fantasy dreamland that I cannot wait to set up. Okie dokie, folks, and that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think with the next toy room update, you will see significant progress made here on the shelves as I continue to make difficult decisions for the betterment of my collection and this room. And while I would never tell anyone how to collect and what to do, because there really is no wrong way to collect, the one mistake I believe anyone could make in their collecting journey is not collecting for themselves. So don't do that. That is my one piece of unsolicited advice. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Check you on the next video. Peace.